comments. We're very excited to be here with the amazing Catherine Cowles. This way, I
I'm
always do
so
the opposite.
happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, what's your puppy's name?
This is Rowan. I call him Ro, and he did not want to be out of this room, so he's joining us for the live.
So cute. And then we also have Monica.
Yeah, it's nice to finally see you in person. Or
yes, this is the first time we're chatting in person on our live show as well. So very excited to have Catherine here, though. I've been devouring all your books lately, so I'm super excited to chat. To get started, I want to chat about our favorite book of yours and your favorite book that you have written of yours. Monica, do you have an answer?
I do.
Okay, I'll let you go
I'm
first.
just trying to look it up so I don't stutter the name.
Well, I can't even sometimes remember my own titles. So if you did mess it up, you would be in great company because my memory is horrible.
I really loved Beautifully Broken Redemption.
Thank you so much. That one was really fun to write. Like I just had such a good time writing it from beginning to end.
I loved how one of the things I look for in a book is character growth. Like if the character is going to grow, with the character growing, with the romance, that's what I look for. And it was just, I absolutely loved both characters.
Thank you so much.
I still don't have like a concrete answer, but well, because it's always, I feel like the one I've most recently read that I'm just like, oh my gosh, that was just so good. So I did recently listen to this one, Reckless Memories, and I didn't realize it was like dead sister's boyfriend, and I love that trope. It's like bad, but
sometimes I get yelled at for that trope, so I was like, oh
no, it is so angsty and so good, and I feel bad loving it, but I'm like, but they're not here anymore.
Exactly.
It's so good. So I was pleasantly surprised when I was listening to that. But I also really loved Hidden Waters, your newest one.
Thank you so much.
It was very sweet. I went from like super angsty to super sweet, but they're both friends to lovers. So
there you go. Which is one of my favorite tropes. So
underrated, the friends to lovers. But
I love that so much, especially when it's like childhood friends to lovers. That's really my kryptonite, big time.
Yes, which was cute. Getting, I don't know where all my books are. Like the prologue was them when they were. I was like, where's this
a little sneak peek into there.
Do you have an answer for what your favorite book is?
You know, it's a little bit tough. I feel like I have a couple of different answers. There's different books that I feel like I've connected to at different points in my journey. Like Beautifully Broken Pieces will always have a big like piece of my heart because I put in a lot of my like own grief journey after losing my dad. I put a lot of personal experience into that book. And so that will always have a special place in my heart. Tattered Stars was just kind of like a joy to write from beginning to end. I'd seen that prologue in my head for years. I just had this idea, this kernel of an idea. And sometimes when an idea has been in my mind for a really long time, it makes the writing process really easy, which is nice. And so it just kind of flows like a movie. So that one was really fun. But I think my favorite so far has been Fractured Sky, which comes out at the end of October. It is kind of, the heroine of that book is Shiloh, if you've read the Tattered and Torn series.
Okay, yeah.
And she was kidnapped in her early childhood and rescued, but she has a lot of trauma from that. And her hero is a horse whisperer, and he comes from a really broken past. And something about the combination of that, I love horses. So whenever I can include them in a book, it always means a lot to me. And I had watched this documentary called Buck about a horse whisperer. And I was just so intrigued by his story that I ended up incorporating a lot of his stuff in a different way. But that was really the inspiration for that character for me. And the two of them together, it was just so much fun. So I'm excited for people to read it.
That's so exciting.
I absolutely loved Shiloh in Tattered Stars, because like I said, I just finished it today, and I was like, oh, I hope her book is next, because
sorry,
make us wait.
It just feels fitting to like go full circle, because for those who haven't read Tattered Stars, you kind of see her kidnapping from a different perspective in the prologue of that book. And so then you kind of go through this whole journey of the community and see how different people were touched by it in different ways. So I love the idea of ending kind of with her happily ever after, because she has definitely earned it.
Oh yeah. Well, she's such a mysterious character, because she kind of keeps everybody at an arm's length, and people know, they're like, well, I can't do this around her, or like I can't even hug her. So
yeah. And you get another little tease about maybe a little secret she's keeping in the next book too. So yeah.
Okay, which I'm going to read soon, hopefully. I do have that. I'm super excited to read it. I'm going to read it. So there are only going to be 5 in the series before you move on to your new series. Okay.
There's a character that we met, or is mentioned briefly in Hidden Waters, and you see him again in Fractured Sky, whose name is Holt. And he is the hero of my 2023 series. So you do get a little bit of an introduction as to what's coming next, but just 5 books in this series.
Okay. How far ahead do you write? Because you already have your next 2 releases done, which is...
Yeah, I like to write ahead. It just kind of takes some of the pressure off me. And then there's a little bit of emotional distance between when I've written a book and when I've released it, which just helps my mind state, for lack of a better term. And I can kind of just breathe a little more, and it makes release a little bit less stressful. So I am about roughly a year ahead, I would say. So Whispers of You, my first book in my 2023 series, is totally done. And then book 2 has been written, it's in the editing process, and I'm writing book 3.
So you're like working 5 books ahead right now.
Yeah. Which a lot of people think I'm crazy for that, but it works for me, so I'm just sticking with it.
Wow. I don't know if I know any other authors that work that far ahead.
Honestly, I think it's a brilliant idea, because then you're not pushing back dates, and everything is okay by that.
That was one of the kind of reasons why I wanted to do it too, is that just in case something happened, I know that I could take some time off and not lose my current production schedule, which is great. Just takes, like I said, takes the pressure off a little bit.
Well, and like, I love that your audios are simultaneous release, because I'm a huge audiobook reader too, and I know people hate waiting like months, and I know that takes a lot of organization. You got to finish the book way early.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
But I'm a huge audio nerd myself, and I know as a reader, like, I'm always like, wait, but I need the audio, and I have to wait, and like sometimes you forget about it, and you forget to go back. And so I just have really wanted that to be, as close together, if not simultaneous, as possible. And it's been really great to kind of be able to offer, like my ARC team audio arcs, and some reviewers the same thing, because not everyone, can read on their Kindle for various reasons. So I like being able to do that. It's nice. And it's helped me kind of build my audio audience too, because more people are talking about the audio, which is great.
And you get to book really popular narrators.
Yeah, which is, for me, because I'm an audio nerd, so much fun. Like sometimes, like when I was at Book Bonanza, like I was geeking out. I was like, oh my gosh, these narrators, I'm so excited.
That's how I that's how I found you. That's how I found Devaney Perry. That's how I found Emma Chase. Gianna Darlin. That's how I found a lot of these authors, because I would be like, oh, Sebastian York. Okay, I'm gonna go through his.
I'm gonna go look. I do the same thing when I'm looking for books too. So
yeah, exactly, that's what I do. So I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, comes in handy.
Yeah.
Was it hard getting those narrators, or was it pretty easy getting to fit in their schedule? Because you have very popular ones.
Yeah, I work with Andy Arndt's company called Lyric Audio, and they are fabulous. They help so much. Audio kind of stresses me out a little bit because there's a lot of moving parts, and they have really held my hand through that whole process. So I have a producer, Katie, who works for them. And when I start writing, and not even writing, like honestly, when I'm plotting out a series, and once I know kind of who the characters are and what the stories are going to be, I'm talking to her saying, this is when this book should be done. This is who I think I would like to use. And sometimes it has to move, like schedules change, things come up at the last minute, you know, it's not always seamless, but for the most part, I've been able to get who I've wanted to use. And that has been so fun, like just a dream come true to work with some of these people and to hear what they bring to my words. Like, and sometimes it's different than what I even heard when I was writing it. And I was listening to actually some things from Whispers of You, and I was listening to Zach's performance, and I was just thinking to myself, gosh, he is so talented. Like, he brought something that I wasn't even thinking about when I was writing it. It really can add so much to a performance when you have these talented actors bringing your words to life. So I just feel very, very grateful to have the caliber of talent that I do working on my books.
I think I've read every series but your new series on audio, so they are really, really good. And I appreciate that the Wrecked series, you have the box set for the first.
Yeah.
So 1 credit for 3 books. I was like, oh, definitely gonna
You're like, dang.
Yeah, I love that.
I know how it is. That audio gets expensive.
Yes. Do you have plans for any more box sets for your series? I don't know if you have any.
I have it's down right now in ebook, but I believe it's up in audio. Is the first 3 books in the Sutter Lake series is box set together, which is great. And then probably at some point I will do one for the Tattered and Torn series, but it probably won't be for a little bit of time. But yeah, I'm all about the box set. It's really helpful.
One of the questions I got that as a question I also have, why small town romance? Because I've like become obsessed with small town romances this year, and I can't get enough of them. And that's all you write, at least so far. So, what draws you to them?
So I, after I graduated college, I lived in Los Angeles for almost 10 years, and I loved it. And then like hit a wall and was like, I am done. I can't deal with the noise, the traffic, a million other things, living in an apartment, all of that. And my family is from Oregon originally. And so I did a little road trip around Oregon. There were a couple of different places that I'd spent time at growing up. And I ended up in a really tiny town, like the population is like 2,000 people, that's outside of Bend. And so basically I moved from a city to a small town about 6 years ago. And that's really where I started writing. And I fell in love with small town life, to be totally honest. And I think there's something about a small community that can heighten the stakes because everybody knows each other, because there's all these, histories and past trauma, past good things, you're carrying all of that with you. And there's this kind of innate knowledge about each other that you don't get in a city setting. And I like throwing in the occasional kooky side character. So that's always fun for me with small towns. And it just has kind of fit my vibe, I feel like. The very, very first book that I wrote was called Further to Fall. And I did set that one in LA, but I wouldn't say it's like indicative of my voice. Like whenever somebody asks where to start, I never tell them that book because I just don't feel like it fits my style. I think when you start writing, you're such a compilation of all the books that you've read over your lifetime that you kind of have to get that out of your system a little bit, and then you can kind of ease into what's truly your voice, your storytelling style, you know, those kinds of things.
I actually grew up in a really small town in Maine.
Oh, awesome.
And so when I moved for college, because I went to the University of Michigan, and I know
and I don't know how to say it.
My dad's from Ann Arbor. Anyway, I was like, it was such a weird experience because I went from everybody knowing each other. Like I couldn't walk down the street without someone knowing my business. And I was the last of 6 kids. So they're all like, well,
they really knew your business.
They all really knew us. Yeah. To the point where we could get away with stuff that most people couldn't. But anyway, so that's what I appreciate about small towns, because I'm just like, okay. And I could tell that you knew the layout of Oregon, because you can tell with the detail that you put into your books.
Thank you. I try and set all my towns to be like a similar population size for the most part as what I live in, because I want to be able to pull from that feel, if that makes sense. Like I know what it's like. There's definitely a ton of people that I don't know in my town, but there's a lot of people that I do, and just kind of what that vibe is basically.
And they're just so cozy. I agree. It's just so nice to read.
Even when they're stalkers and murderers.
Yeah, I know. But that's okay. It reminds me of, have you ever watched Murder, She Wrote? The show?
I love Murder, She Wrote. I used to watch it
my mother's favorite show, so I watched it growing up. And it's like that, like Cabot Cove. It's just like this tiny, small town, and there's
I'm trying to remember. There's a book in the Rex series. I think it's I can't remember if it's book 2, but there's a book that I talk about Murder, She Wrote.
Do you?
One of your characters really loved Murder, She Wrote.
Yes, because I loved it.
Oh my gosh, I think it was the second one, because it was the rockstar romance, and they would stay in, and she's like, yeah, I want to watch Murder, She Wrote. And by the end, she's like, okay, I'm done with it.
That's so funny.
Or wait, maybe it wasn't Rex. Wait, was it? Oh, I can't remember. This is the problem. Like, I don't even remember sometimes what my characters' names are. Like, somebody will ask me about someone, and I'll be like, that wasn't in my book, was it? And then I'll go search, and definitely was there. Whoops.
I mean, you have a pretty long backlist now, so it's hard to keep track.
I'm going to use that excuse. I'm going to be like, wrote too many books. Sorry.
Also, so we asked why you like small time romances. What about series do you like writing? Because I think other than your first one, everything you've written is a series.
Yeah. And even that one, characters from that book are who started the Sutter Lake series. So I'm horrible. Like I haven't ever truly written like a true standalone. I'm just really bad at it, because the second somebody else appears on screen, I'm like, ooh, what could their book be? You know, like I'm just always thinking that way. So it's just hard for me to build a well-rounded cast of characters and then not want to see those characters get their own stories. I just have a hard time with it. I have an idea for like a duet that maybe I would write at some point, but that's kind of the only like short story idea that I have an idea for. Everything else is long.
Yeah. But as a reader, I appreciate, because like I'm excited with these characters. So like Shiloh, you kept till book 5, but that's gonna keep us reading. We're like, okay, I want to see this character. Now I get this character story. So make us wait for Shiloh. That's okay. But
the one thing I love about series that are connected, one, no cliffhangers at the end of each book. I cannot stand cliffhangers. True. Since I was a little kid, I cannot stand cliffhangers. I will never pick up a book if I know that there's a cliffhanger. It just won't happen.
What if the whole series is out? Will you do it then?
I just can't do it.
How funny.
Because when I was a little kid, we were driving to Ann Arbor for my grandfather's funeral, and we were watching Dark Shadows Revival, and it literally was the last episode. She was just coming back from the past. She found out that Barnabas Collins was a vampire. He saved her life from witch hunters, and then it just stopped. And then never picked up.
And you were traumatized.
I know.
I was like 7 or 8 years old when that happened, and I just to this day I cannot
for
read.
life.
It just will not happen.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
But the one thing about interconnected series is that I absolutely love. It's like coming back home, and you get to see these characters, and as they progress, without having an extra book that's not really needed, but you get to see the glimpses of what's going on towards till the very end.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I love interconnected series.
It's one of my favorite to read too.
Well, speaking of, what got you into writing romance, and were you always a romance reader? What kind of romances did you like? Stuff like that.
So I started getting back into reading with the Twilight craze. I loved Twilight so much that for so many of us, I feel like that was kind of the gateway drug back into our love of reading. And so I was reading a lot of YA, and I found Jennifer L. Armentrout's the series. It's like starts with like Here With Me, I think is the title of the first book. Here With You, yes, and then Be With Me is like book 2. So I started reading that series not knowing that it was like open door romance, and I will never forget, I was like walking down a street in LA, walking my dog, like with my little earbuds in, like listening to the Audible, and then all of a sudden it gets like real racy, and I was like, oh, I was like, what just happened? I was like, oh my goodness. And like, I'm sure my cheeks were like a shade of a tomato, being like, can somebody hear what I'm listening to right now? And that was just like the beginning of the end for me. Like, then I was like, all romance all the way. I was like, this is way more fun than straight YA. So I just went down the rabbit hole after that. And I read a lot of traditionally published books, and then I kind of found indie books, and the rest is history, as they say.
I love that Twilight's been the gateway for so many people. I know a lot of authors wrote like Twilight fan fiction, and then that like spurred their writing. So
that would be so fun. Maybe I need to do that one day.
Love that. Twilight fan fiction. I mean, that's like, I think Christina Lauren started out that way.
Yeah, exactly.
So many different
Helena
authors.
Hunton, Deborah Anastasia, A.L. James. Yeah, Pucked is a Twilight fan fiction.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
Lacey book lovers. I saw it on one.
Did Lacey say that? I watched that video that she did, but okay.
Yeah, she did.
So
I was like, oh, that was really fun.
Huh. Didn't know that.
All these awesome authors. Thank you, Twilight.
How long does it take you to like write a full book?
So writing the first draft, usually about 6 weeks. I typically allow 7 weeks for it. And then I go through several rounds of editing. So it'll go to my developmental editor and my betas, and I'll do a round with them. And then it goes to my copy editor, who looks at it twice. I go through all of her feedback, like copy and line. And then it goes to 2 proofreaders, and then it goes to audio. So it's a long process, like altogether, but to actually first draft the book, about 6 weeks, give or take. I can do it unless if I have to, like I've got family coming into town at the end of this month. So I'm writing a lot more words per day than I usually do, hoping to kind of take a little vacation with them. So I can if I need to, but ideally I'd like to write like 3,000 words a day, Monday through Friday, would kind of be my happy place.
Wow. So how many hours a day is that you write?
So usually I am writing anywhere from 3 to 5 hours a day. And then I will edit in the afternoon a different book, because I've got books at different stages in the process. And so I'll kind of do a little bit of both, and that gives my brain a break. Some people don't like to juggle more than one project at a time, but I found it really helpful, because if I want to have, like, if I need to have a really high word count day or get through a ton of edits in a day, I find myself rushing and the quality goes down, So I like kind of mixing it up a little bit. I work some pretty long days, I will not lie. And I write Monday through Friday, and then I try and catch up on admin kind of tasks on Saturday. And then I've been trying to be pretty good about taking Sundays off just for me, which I was not great about starting out. It was kind of like a 7 days a week thing. So this has been a development over the last year, but I've stuck with it pretty well. And it does really help just to give my brain a little vacation.
I feel like that's hard working for yourself.
It is, because you can always do more. Like, I was talking to a friend about this the other night. Like, it's like, even when you get in bed at night, you're like, oh, well, I should read this craft book, or I should, watch this presentation from a conference, or it's hard to just be like, no, I'm just gonna watch reruns of Vampire Diaries.
I'm on Schitt's Creek right now.
Give yourself a little bit of you time.
Exactly.
What do you think about social media? Do you like being on social media? Do you feel pressured? Like, I know people feel like they have to do TikToks to try to blow up.
I have mixed feelings about all of it, to be totally honest. I have had some of the most amazing experiences, like connecting with people on social media. I've gotten messages that have just meant truly the world to me. So like, without those channels, I wouldn't be hearing from people. I wouldn't be able to get the word out about my books. I wouldn't see these incredible edits that people do, these amazing photos, creative videos, all of that. And I am so grateful, but there definitely is, a flip side to all of those things. There are people who can be not the nicest sometimes.
And tag you in a 1-star review.
Yes, which is not fun.
I don't get why people do that.
And there can be a comparison game. I really, kind of towards the end of last year, I just decided to check my social media less. So I'll get on, I'll usually check in the morning to make sure there's nothing burning. And then I'll turn everything off. I will write, and I don't check again until I'm done writing, because that is when I really need to protect my headspace. And I just found that when I do that, I am a happier person. I'm not thinking about what anybody else is doing. I'm just kind of focused on myself. And that has been really, really helpful. And just helps me write more easily too. So that has kind of been the balance for me. And then, towards the end of the day, I can check more, and I can share everything I need to, and, respond to comments and tags and that kind of stuff. And you do unfortunately miss some things, which is a real bummer, because Instagram started like eating notifications. Like, at a certain point, they won't show you everything, which is a bummer. But I think in the end, it's worth it. So if you tagged me in something and I didn't see it, I'm so sorry. Like, tag me again, send it to me on DM. I'll definitely see it if you DM it to me. I appreciate it so much.
It is hard, like you said, about the comparison aspect, and then seeing what everyone says, and especially when you're trying to get in the headspace of writing.
Exactly. I would much rather just kind of protect that headspace as much as I can. And like I said, it's made me happier to kind of have those boundaries and have that balance. And I have gotten into TikTok a little bit, but I'll admit I'm not the greatest at it. I just do like the page flips, or like the little stock videos. Like, I like coming up with the hooks and stuff. Like, that's kind of fun. But I'm not super techie, so I probably need someone to come teach me some skill. You're amazing at TikTok out there. Please come help me.
But I've noticed it's more so like the readers who get the books to go viral than the authors. And so I think that's definitely kind of out of the author's control when it comes to TikTok. So,
but I do love seeing what people come up with, because there's some really, really creative stuff out there. And even just seeing like the lines that readers pull, that's always fascinating to me, because a lot of times there's stuff that I just didn't even think about, like, would be a hook, but I'm like, yeah, that really does work well, and like people will go all out with those like aesthetic edits. I love seeing those. Those are always so fun. And yeah, they're great.
Do you think that TikTok has made you have your alternate covers? Like, what made you want to do your new series with the two? Because I think that trend really came from TikTok. I don't know if
I would say it definitely has had an impact on covers for sure. I love covers without people, to be totally honest with you. I really battled when I was getting started whether I was going to have people on my covers or not. I went back and forth. But at the end of the day, it's you know, kind of this blend between art and commerce, you know, and starting out, I really wanted people to be able to look at my cover and in 2 seconds realize, what is this book? It is a romance. And a couple to me says that the most. So I went the couple route. I work with an amazing designer. Her name is Hong Lee, and she, we have worked together since my very first cover. And she really has gotten kind of my vibe, and we've really developed my brand, you know, over the years. And she really gets that blend between like couple and art, you know. I really like that combination of those elements of like the mountains or different, you know, effects that, you know, that we're using on different covers. And that to me has been like the happy medium. But alternate covers are so great because then I can like try different designers. I can, you know, like do something totally out of left field that I wouldn't have done. Maybe I wouldn't have felt brave enough to try like on my main, you know, main cover. So I think it's kind of the best of both worlds. I did run into an issue where like, so Amazon will send out alerts about a book, and Amazon sent out the alert about the alternate cover instead of the main book. So people were confused and didn't think I was releasing an ebook. And I was like, oh no, there is an ebook. So I have to be careful about how, like when I pub those books now, unfortunately. It has to be like a few days after the book has come out.
Gotcha. I will say, I think like you have a brand though with your covers. Like I look at your book and I'm like, okay, it's definitely one of yours. And I don't think a lot of authors like have the same style you do, but it's so pretty because a lot of it's like the kind of watercolory from
it's like painting and photography, like kind of like layered look. And you know, it gets a little bit challenging. Oh, that's another one too.
I saw that and it was almost sold out. I was like, yes, I'm going to take that.
Oh, thank you. That was the Bookworm box cover that Murphy Ray did. Oh my gosh, I love that cover. She did such an amazing job with it. She's so talented. But yeah, you know, my designer, Hong, and I, we like have worked really, really hard. And we will even, you know, when we're coming up with a concept, we'll get on the phone together and we'll talk for like an hour or two while she's designing, and she'll tweak, she'll send a screenshot, she'll send it to me, we'll talk about it, then we'll move things around. Like we just go through this whole kind of process. It's a miracle that she's stuck with me this long. But it's really fun because I feel like by the end we've come up with something that really feels indicative of the series and of me as an author. And
your new ones are so pretty. So pretty. Do you have one there? Yes. Those are so, and you can tell exactly what it is too. Like you said, romance, mountain kind of town.
Yeah, exactly.
Gets all the vibes, and they're just so pretty. Are you gonna also have alternate covers for that series too?
So I am. We are actually working on something for the hardbacks, kind of a special little. They're gonna blend more together. Like it's going to be kind of like a companion to that cover, if that makes sense. And once it's designed, we'll do the little reveal, but I'm very excited about it.
Have you done hardbacks before?
So I've only done the ones from Amazon where it's like just the case hardback. There's no actual jacket. And so this one is actually going to be a traditional hardback with the jacket and all of that good stuff. So on the case, it'll have this, and then it'll have a different jacket over it.
Oh, okay.
That's really cool.
So I'm excited.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Do you know if you're going to be any other, I don't know if you're allowed to say, even if you are, any book boxes? I know those are always like.
I can't share yet, but I am going to be in one in the first half of next year for sure.
Okay.
So whenever I can announce it, I'll post it.
Yeah.
Post it on my feed.
I don't know if you know Lacey, right? Lacey Book
Yes.
Okay. She was talking to the Belle and the Mystic people, and we were like, "Get Catherine and Belle book box, please."
Hey.
We'll see, hopefully, because they were asking for all the recommendations. So yeah, I just love all the different versions book boxes do as well, and so
it's really cool. And I love, like, I love getting the chance to work with different people who I wouldn't have the chance to work with otherwise. Like, it's just fun to see what they'll bring to, my stories and how we work together and all of that stuff.
And it reaches more readers too, because then you're getting in the hands of people who might not have read you before.
Exactly. Yeah. I get a ton of messages from people who found me through the Bookworm box, that Reckless Memories cover that you showed. I get a lot of messages about that, which is great.
You had mentioned that you would not recommend your first book as the starting point for your books. What book would you recommend as if someone's brand new to you?
So it depends whether you're one of these sticklers for reading in order. Like, if you want to read them as they were pubbed, I would start with Beautifully Broken Pieces. If you're like, I can start anywhere, I would start with Tattered Stars. I really do genuinely love this new series that I'm in right now. It just feels like it has a piece of my heart. It's been a really special writing experience. And I'm really proud of that first book. Which isn't something that I can always say with every book. Sometimes books are a real struggle. And so it's really fun when I can say a first in series is like, I'm like, yes, I'm really proud of this. Please read this book, And it's free right now, guys. So if you haven't tried me before and you want to try me with no risk, you can pick up the ebook on all the retailers. But I think it's a great place to start.
I actually appreciate that your Sutter Lake series is on our library apps. I mean, it was on my so that's how I was able to start in.
That's awesome. Yeah, and all my ebooks and paperbacks can be requested through your local library too. Audio, unfortunately, for my later series, they're exclusive to Audible, so they're not available in libraries, but at least ebook and paperback are. I'm such a big proponent of libraries. I love them. I think it's a great way to read. I get a lot of books that way, it's great. So.
Well, if I'm reading in a library app and I really, really love the book, I'll just go ahead and order it.
Yeah.
On both awesome. Paperback and audio, because
I love that.
How long is it book number 1 going to be free for?
It will be free this week and next week.
Okay. I know sometimes authors do like day-long sales, week-long.
I know. It can be real quick.
Now, I actually have a question for you.
Yeah.
Out of all your books, who is your favorite book boyfriend?
Ooh. It's Ramsey, who's the hero in Fractured Sky. I love him.
Well, no, we just read that, but
well, we haven't read that.
It's like my broodiest, my grumpiest, my like most tortured. I'm like, yes, give me all of those things.
We love a damaged, tortured hero. So
exactly. I'm sorry. I'm like, my catnip is trauma and murder. Like, what does that say about me?
I think one of the funniest things that I just saw was I don't like the news, so I'm going to turn it off and turn on a true crime.
Yes, that is 100% me. Like 100%. I'm like, ooh, let me relax. Let me listen to this gory murder true crime podcast.
I mean, Discovery Plus.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect.
To be fair, though, I think like people are so fascinating that you're like, what would drive someone to do this? And like that's that's how I say that I like true crime. So it's just with all the murders and the romantic suspense. So so we know you like a damaged, tortured hero. And you had mentioned you like friends to lovers. Do you have any other tropes that are your favorites to write?
So I'm definitely a sucker for woman on the run. So, a heroine who's hiding out from something, whatever that something is, that's always fun for me because also they're usually like leading a double life in some way, and they should not be getting into a relationship. But then, of course, they meet the perfect person to tempt them away from that. So I love that. I love Brother's Best Friend, too. I'm a big fan of that. And age gap. I'm always a sucker for age gap, too.
Do you have many age gaps?
So I have some, but they're not like huge age gaps. Usually it's like about like 10 years around there. Reckless Refuge is one in the Wrecked series. I don't think there's one in Sutter Lake, and not really in.
Well, I guess kind of Fallen Embers.
Yeah, a little bit, but not huge.
No.
I've got one in the next series that I'm writing.
Okay.
One, so
I'm
working in all my favorites.
Yeah. What I really loved, I forget which one. Is it? The one where her dad like embezzled money and like
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Kane.
Yes. So yes, I love that one. Also because like he's a millionaire and that is like her biggest turn off.
I know.
And I was just like, it is so funny. He's like, what? Me being rich is like not impressive to you? It was so funny.
So what made me think of that idea was I was rereading 50 Shades of Grey, and I just my mind will like just start to spiral about like what ifs. Like what if the start of this story went in a totally different direction? You know, like so what if that like the heroine wanted nothing to do with wealth? And then my mind goes, well, why wouldn't she want anything to do with wealth? And then then all of a sudden her backstory's going. And then I'm like, okay, he needs to have some trauma around something that to deal with her, you know, like, so, and then I just build these characters and all of a sudden, you know, all of it came from a reread of 50 Shades of Grey.
Do you have there's a couple questions I will get to in the comments in a second, but do you have, where do you get like your inspiration like that then? So like you said rereading 50 Shades.
1,000,001 different places. So I do listen to a lot of true crime podcasts, and a lot of the suspense stuff will come from like kernels of that. Like in Falling Embers, she had basically like my version of YouTube, like, you know, like a YouTube channel where she puts up these extreme sports things and she gets a stalker. And I had listened to this podcast about a gamer who would like post her like live gaming, and like had someone come into the comments and had this whole stalker scenario. And so something about that like started my mind going. So I get a lot of inspiration from that. Just honestly, everyday life of just walking around and seeing something and it'll just start a chain of thoughts, you know? My like local little newspaper, you never know when you're going to read something that'll just kind of get your mind going. And you know, TV, movies, watching different things. Like I said, like you'll see the start of something and you're like, but what if it wasn't that? What if it took a totally different turn and was a different story? And then I just can't stop myself. I've got a crazy imagination. So
that's helpful though, because then you're just going to never run out of ideas.
Exactly.
Any plans for a Canadian setting?
Ooh, I love Canada. You know, I don't have any plans right now, but that's not to say that I wouldn't set something there, because, you know, obviously that can kind of be included in the Pacific Northwest. That's kind of where I've set the vast majority of my books, just because I know that kind of terrain well. And usually what I will do when I'm picking a setting is I will find a real town somewhere near where I'm setting something, and then I will fictionalize that town. So I want some images to really ingrain the place in my mind that I can kind of pull up and look at, and then I'll just make believe the rest of it, basically.
Would you ever write a 20-year age gap?
Ooh, you know, it was funny. I asked in my reader group the other day, I need to write like a little novella for an anthology. And I was like, what should I write about? And there was a lot of age gap love in there. And I was like, how far could I push this? I was like, I wonder, maybe I need to really go for it. If the setup was right. That's the big thing for me. Like, it has to feel authentic and real and justified as to why these two people fell in love. So that it comes across, you know, like you're excited about the story, not creepy, basically.
Yeah. Are there any other tropes that you haven't written yet that you really want to?
Oh, that's a good question.
You've written a lot.
Oh, you know, I would love to write like like a true bad guy hero, like a morally gray, like I think that would be really fun. But I have kind of crafted my career around mostly like good guy heroes. So that might be a challenge at some point, but you never know. Maybe I could do a little side project or something like like I like reading mafia stuff.
Do you write a mafia romance?
That would be
that'd be amazing.
That would be pretty fun. Could like somebody's like hiding out from the mafia in a small town.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes. That would be a lot of fun. And then
mafia small town age gap.
Yes.
Sold.
Perfect combination. We will all read it. That would be amazing. Oh. Yes.
Really great. Yeah.
These are moving too fast. We have anything about the tropes for Fractured Sky?
So I can tell you that it is, I'm trying to think about things that won't give away what you kind of learn in Shattered Sea. I can tell you that it is forced proximity.
One bed trope?
What'd you say?
One bed trope?
Not quite one bed, but close. So
that's one of my favorite tropes.
You'll have to see, but I do like that trope too.
Mm.
We are all very excited for this small town mafia.
Small town mafia, yes.
Someone asked, would you ever write about a person with a disability?
I love this question. So Shattered Sea is the next book in my Tattered and Torn series, and that heroine deals with chronic pain. I brought a lot of my own experience when I guess it was 2011. I got minor difference, little different. I was bucked off a horse and injured my back pretty badly, and it actually was the catalyst for me starting writing, because I had to have surgery. I couldn't work for many months, and have continued to kind of have different back issues through the years. So I have really wanted to kind of bring that into my books, and I was trying to figure out the right story for it, and it really felt like this was the right one. But this book was really, really hard for me to write. Like I dubbed it the devil book at the time, because it was so important to me to get it right, to get that struggle right. So I do have that one coming out, and I am really proud of how it turned out. I think the struggle to get that story right was worth it in the end. At least I hope people feel like, I think with chronic pain, it can be an invisible disability a lot of times. And so I hope that people who maybe feel that way feel a little bit seen in those words. And I would love to write other characters that deal with different disabilities down the line. But I also want to make sure those things are really well researched, which takes a lot of time. So it kind of has to be the right time in my writing schedule where I can take, some additional weeks or months to make sure that I'm getting it right, because I think there's a really big responsibility to do that. So, yeah.
And as readers, we really appreciate when authors take that extra time to make sure they're doing the story justice.
Yeah. I actually have 2 kids with autism. My son's really, really low. He's nonverbal. My daughter's high. So I have both. Experiences with that. So when I've read books with autism in them, some of them were not really well represented, and I'm like, no. But then there's some that were just so fantastic, and I'm like, they actually took the time. There was one who wrote in the point of view of the mother of the kid with autism, and I was like, I bet she knows someone who has a kid with autism, because she nailed it.
And I think, at least for me, I can only speak from my experience.
Right.
I want to make sure that I have somebody who I can be calling on to ask a lot of questions. Like, I am going to be writing a heroine who has type 1 diabetes. And I have a good friend, Elle, who lives locally to me, who's also an amazing bookstagrammer, literary YA. She lives with that disease. And so I had a conversation with her saying that I really wanted to write a heroine that dealt with that because I've been so inspired by her journey. And so she and I sat down, we had a number of conversations about it. And I can text her, like, not only will she read my book and make sure that I'm not screwing things up, I can text her and be like, okay, this is the situation. Like, basically, like, what would you do? Like, how would you handle this type of thing? Or if I have a specific question. And it's two things. One, I feel like I can be confident that I'm being accurate. And two, it helps me get to know her better. A friend of mine who's living with something that maybe I wouldn't understand as well if I didn't have this shared experience with her of writing about it. And that's a gift in and of itself. So I do think it's great when you have people in your life that you can lean on if they're willing to share from their experience, because it just enriches all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you said that's your upcoming series?
Yeah, that's the next series.
Okay.
You said that you got into your accident in 2011. What were you doing? I mean, if you want to share, what was your
I rode competitively in high school and had decided when I was in LA, I was like, I'm going to get back into horseback riding. This is going to be awesome. And first lesson back, the horse bucked and I just like went off, and it was just at the right angle. Like, I was twisting and I tore a disc in my low back. And so I tried to rehab it for several years and then ended up having to have back surgery, which ended up making things worse. And so really when I fell back in love with romance was when I was recovering from this injury, because I was having a really hard time sleeping. And so I would just wake up, I would be up most of the night and I would read. And that was really my escape. And it's been so fun for me, like, getting into this career now, because there are authors who I've met and become friends with who, like, you know, I say to my friend Samantha Young, like, one of her books was like a series of hers, like, kept me company during that time. Like, she and I are, you know, really close friends now. Like, so it's like she was there for me in a time in my life when we didn't even know each other, which is really special.
Aww.
So they were really my escape when I really, really needed them. And then when I moved up to Oregon and was kind of taking the time to really recover from this injury, I just thought, you know, if there was ever a time to try writing a book, this was it. And so I just kind of made the promise to myself that I would write one book. I would finish it no matter what. If I hated it, I never had to do it again, but I was going to write one book. And I just fell in love with the process. So the rest is history.
Yeah.
So if you could recommend us any authors or any books, what would it be?
Oh man, that's so mean. I'm like looking back on my shelves here, guys. Okay, so my number one author is Nora Roberts, her romantic suspense.
Oh, really?
I love her stuff so much.
I love Witness.
Her book, The Obsession.
I know. And Witness. Oh my gosh.
Yes, I love The Witness too. Love it. That has a great audiobook too, by the way. So that's probably like my number one. And in terms of like favorite things that I've read this year, I fell in love with Little Lies by Helena Hunting. Oh my goodness. And she was kind enough to send me an arc of book 2 that comes out in September.
Okay, I'm jealous.
So fabulous. I am so obsessed with this series. I can't even tell you. Like, I fangirled on her so hard at Book Bonanza. She was so nice to me. She didn't make me feel like a total nerd, even though I was.
You realize it's a student professor, so it's.
I know.
She went there.
I know, exactly. And it's reverse age gap. I loved it. And then I also have really loved Samantha Young's Adair family series. That, if you like romantic suspense, it is so fabulous. I cannot even tell you. The world is so rich. It takes place in the Highlands. You just see it playing in front of your eyes and like a movie. I have loved that series so much. So those are some of my favorites this year.
I love her On Dublin Street series. I was reading that.
That was the series that kept me company when I was in that. I reread it recently and I was, messaging her saying like, gosh, this is like taking me back. And it was just so fun to reread. Like, oh, and she was kind enough. She sent me that's her shelf right here. So she sent me those books because I was like, I need them on my shelf.
I got to meet her like 3 or 4 years ago at a signing, which was absolutely amazing. She's from Scotland, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
I'm hoping she'll come for Book Bonanza next year. I'm trying to see if maybe she would.
I'm hoping to get a ticket.
Yeah.
I'm already very nervous about the tickets because so many people who didn't go this year are like, oh, I'm going next year. I was like, how many of you are going to go? I need to make sure I can get my ticket.
But I feel like it didn't sell out in like minutes last time, right? It was up for like at least a few days, I feel like, right?
I don't know because I bought it resold in February.
Okay.
So. But then that wasn't that hard. So I'm like freaking out over nothing. It's okay. I know.
I think we'll get there. I think
I'm pretty much going to be there at like 12:01 a.m.
You're like, it's time.
It's the only one I can go to. I'm a special ed teacher, and then I have everything with my family. So I'm just like, and it's the only one that fits. So I'm like, okay, I can't go to Polycon. I'm going to go to Book Bonanza.
It was pretty fun, but man, I needed like a month of recovery afterwards. I was so tired afterwards.
Well, you guys are on nonstop 5 hours
crazy
both days. So yeah. And your line was just continuous the entire
I know. It was pretty awesome. I met so many amazing people. And it was a real mix of like people who had been reading me for a long time and people who hadn't read me who were just like, I want to start you. Where do I start? And I love that. That's so fun.
Mm-hmm. And you had I think we were talking about it before we came on. That was only your second signing.
I know. Only my second one. My very first signing was Book Bonanza in 2019. And I had never even been to a book signing like as a reader. And so it was definitely like trial by fire of like, oh my gosh, this is huge. There's all these people. What's happening? What am I doing?
Yeah. Are you going to be in Seattle next year?
Yes. Next year, I'm doing Love in Seattle. I think it's in April. And I'm really excited about that because I can actually drive to it.
I was going to say that's close to you.
So. Exactly. So that never happens. There aren't a lot of signings in the Pacific Northwest for whatever reason. I wish there were more.
Mm-hmm. And then you had said you were also going to be at Vegas, which is November?
Yeah, it's at the end of October this year. And I'm excited about that because one of my best author friends, Laura Pavlov, lives in Vegas. So I'm going to spend a couple of days with her afterwards, which will be really fun. So
I just read my first book by her.
Oh, you did? Which one?
Yeah. I don't remember which one it was. Always Mine?
Always Mine. Yep. That's her new series. I love her new series. Yeah. My favorite book by her is called Sealed. I am so addicted to that book. I can't even tell you. So you should read that one too.
Okay. I will check more for books out. I think my library had a few of her audiobooks, but small town as well. So
yes,
of course,
exactly.
I'm going to read this.
Yeah.
Were you always a writer, or did you like go to school for writing? Is it just something?
So I've always been a huge reader for sure. Like always nose stuck in a book growing up, big time. I went to college for theater and journalism, so definitely writing components to both of those for sure. But I honestly feel like I draw more from the theater degree than I do from the journalism degree, just because I pull from it when I'm creating characters. I think that's very much how I piece my characters together, is how I would like analyze them from an acting class. And I think it's definitely helped with my creative approach for sure.
So do you like performing and stuff? I didn't know that you had, or is it more like
that was kind of like my my old life of like, I lived in LA for 10 years and did some acting and worked in casting and worked for like a writer director. And so got to kind of see a lot of different facets of that industry. And I definitely feel like it prepared me for this industry in some kind of like unique ways. There's definitely things that I pull from all of those jobs for sure.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah,
LA is fun. It's very fast paced though.
it is for sure.
Yeah. And now you're in your little slow.
I know. I'm like, I do much better with the slow and steady, let me tell you.
Yeah. Okay, we are coming up to about an hour. Do you want to tell us just like a quick spiel about your upcoming book, when it's coming out?
Yeah. So my next book is Shattered Sea, the one I was telling you about, where the heroine deals with chronic pain. And there is also a hero who is a movie star hiding out for reasons which you will learn. And they kind of have a very unique meet cute, which I love. And there's different layers to that you learn as the book goes on, which is always really fun for me. And I kind of like the, when one of the characters is famous and the other one kind of has like a regular normal job and, all the different things that can pop up during that. So that comes out September 13th, I believe. And then the last book in the Tattered and Torn series comes out October 25th. I moved that one up a little bit. So it's coming up sooner, which is fun. So we'll get all those books out. And that one, like I said, is Forced Proximity and my favorite hero.
Tortured hero.
Exactly.
And heroine.
Yeah, exactly. They've both been tortured. So they deserve a little happiness.
Yes. And so is that it for 2022 then? And you'll start your new series?
That's it for 2022. Whispers of You comes out the end of January of next year. So,
yeah. Okay.
And how many books do you have planned for next year? Just the 3?
So next year there will be 4.
You just spoil us so much. We just constantly have new books to listen to.
I tried hard to get faster because I was not always fast.
But yeah, check out. You have 3 series.
Yeah.
1 standalone ish.
Yeah. Don't read the standalone.
The other ones. We have a very big backlist, so you have plenty for people.
There you go.
Check out. And like you had said, recommend Tattered Stars is free right now. Start out with this series. It is one of my favorites by you from what I've read so far.
Thank you.
So,
thank you so much.
So yes. And we enjoyed seeing the puppy little snippets of him.
So crazy. You want to say hi? Yeah.
He's so cute. He's so cute. Oh,
he didn't even bark. He just snoozed the whole time.
Is that how big he's gonna get? You said he was about a year, right?
Yeah, they don't think he's gonna get much bigger. So the vet kind of thought maybe he was like the runt of the litter. He's a little bit of a scaredy cat. So I think maybe he was. I think he kind of got picked on maybe by his siblings. Poor little
breed? Bug. What's his breed?
He's a Cavalier King Charles.
Okay.
So they're kind of known for being snuggle bugs and just lovers, which is just what I need.
All right. Thank you everybody for joining.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun. And thank you for all your support. You have just been so awesome, Jessica. I just appreciate you so much.
We want you to have all the success.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, like I said, check this out. I will go back and link it in my description box. I don't think I linked the first book. I didn't realize this one was still free, but I will do that. I believe, though, I linked your Instagram down below if people want.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, coming out with me. That's where I usually spend the most time, on Instagram and in my Facebook reader group, which is just the Catherine Cowles reader group. I love chatting books, all the things. So come hang.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody, and we will see you guys later. Bye.
Bye.